There's something deeply human in this gospel. We have the picture of a tired man sitting by a well at midday and a woman arriving alone carrying her water jar. It's a quiet, ordinary moment, and yet it becomes a turning point, not just for her but for the entire town. Jesus begins with that simple request, "Give me a drink." It seems like he's the one that's in need, but he's using it to open a conversation that will lead her from surface level concerns to something much deeper. Her thirst for meaning in life, for truth, for God. Now, the detail of the timing is important because she comes to the well at noon. It's the 6th hour, it says, the hottest part of the day. People would usually come in the morning or the evening when it was cooler. But she comes at that time of day and she comes alone. She's likely avoiding others. Jesus gently reveals her life story to her, suggesting broken relationships, perhaps shame. And she's carrying with her a water jar, but she's carrying much more than that. She's carrying her past. And yet Jesus meets her right there. He meets her in her isolation, in her mess. Jesus will meet us where we actually are, not where we think we should be. But he doesn't just leave her there, he shifts the conversation. He said, if you knew the gift of God, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Of course, she misunderstands at first. She's still thinking about the physical water, what she first came for. But Jesus is speaking about something much deeper. The life of grace, the Holy Spirit, the satisfaction that only God can give us. We all know what it's like to thirst, not just physically, but spiritually. We thirst for love, for purpose, and at times like now, we thirst for peace. And just like that woman at the well, we often try and quench that thirst in things that don't last, in relationships, achievements, possessions. None of those are bad things in themselves, but they cannot fill that deepest yearning within us. And he goes on to reveal that he knows her life completely. But he's not doing it to shame her, but he's doing it to free her. And there's something about the way he speaks, something about his presence that tells her she is safe with him, that she's seen, that she's loved. God doesn't ignore our sin or brokenness, but he also doesn't reduce us to it. And then comes the turning point, because she raises a religious question about where to worship. But Jesus lifts her understanding. The hour is coming when true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. In other words, it's not so much about the place of worship, it's about the relationship. Worship cannot be just an external ritual. It has to be a transformation inside. And then there's something happens which is really unusual in the Gospels. Jesus reveals himself very plainly as to who he is. He says, "I who speak to you am he, the Christ, the Messiah." It's one of the clearest self-revelations of Christ in the gospel. And he chooses not to reveal that in that way to a religious leader, to a powerful politician, but he reveals it to a woman on the margins. So she runs off to the town and says, "Come, see a man who has told me all that I ever did." It's remarkable. She came alone. She's no longer hiding. She's now a witness. The one who was avoiding others now runs to invite them. An encounter with Christ does that. It can change how we live. It turns us outward. And the result in this case, many Samaritans came to believe. Last weekend I was away for a weekend in Worcester. Went to St George's Church there, and I noticed in the newsletter that they had a online Zoom group meeting on a Monday, practicing what we call Lectio Divina. It's a quiet, calm way of praying on the scriptures. It's very effective. And after reading what's actually the longer version of today's gospel, each one in the group commented on a word or phrase that just stood out for them. And mine was a phrase that was only in that longer version. We didn't hear it this morning, but the phrase is, "So the woman left her water jar." Again, that's not a small detail in the story. The jar, of course, is why she came to the well. It represented her daily routine, her old concerns, her way of living. After encountering Jesus, she leaves that behind. She's found something much greater. So the reading today leaves us with a choice. I take you back to the first week of Lent, when the desert experience that was described. So again, this week, take a moment of real honesty before God by asking yourself, where am I still thirsty? What am I relying on instead of him? And then do something very simple but real. Ask him in prayer, "Lord, give me this living water." Not just a vague idea, but a real deep request. Because Jesus is still sitting at that well. He's still waiting. He's still asking, "Give me a drink." He's doing that so that he can give you something much, much greater.